Namaskar everyone. If you want to study in the United States like me, this video is going to be very helpful to you. This video is specifically made for undergraduate students applying from countries like Nepal, India, Bangladesh, Bhutan and other international countries where students are often talented and hardworking and they are ambitious, but they may not have clear information about how the US application system actually works. And let me say one thing very clearly in the beginning, even though this video is mainly for undergraduate students, around 85 to 90% of what I'm about to say still applies to graduate students too. The reason I'm not fully covering graduate admissions here is because master's and PhD applications have some extra requirement and I want to make a separate video for that instead of mixing everything and making this confusing. Also, before we start, I also want to say this openly. I know it has been years since I made this kind of long, useful, information heavy video. Life got busy, studies got busy, work got busy, and one of the biggest reasons I did not come back to making video earlier is that I always felt like if I make a video, I have to make it perfect, do editing, animation, transition. But recently I realized that because of that mindset, I stopped making helpful contents altogether. So in this video, I'm not trying to impress you with editing, I'm just trying to genuinely help you. So just sit down and listen carefully and hear what I have to say, because this may be one of the most useful videos you will watch if your dream is to study in America. And one more thing, I'm not speaking here just as someone who just heard things from other people. I personally went through this process. Now let us start from the very beginning. The first question most students ask is, what exams do I need to apply to US universities? The answer is, for undergraduate admissions, most commonly discussed standardized tests are SAT and sometimes ACT. But here is the important part. Many US universities today are test optional. That means SAT is not always mandatory. And this is where a lot of students get confused when they hear optional. They think the test has become useless. That is not true. If you have a strong SAT score, it can still strengthen your application. If your GPA is not ideal, a strong SAT can help balance that weakness. But if your SAT is low and the university test is optional, then in many cases it may be smarter not to submit it at all. So do not think in extremes, do not think either that SAT is everything. The real answer is it depends on the university and it depends on your profile. Common App's current guidance still points students to each college's individual requirement because policies vary by school. So if you ask me, should I take SAT? My recommendation is this. First, decide what type of universities you are targeting and then go to those universities' admission website and check whether they are test optional, test required or test flexible. If you are aiming for stronger schools, having a very good SAT can absolutely help. If you are applying to mainly to easier admit schools, some of them may not care as much. In general, better universities are more selective and expect stronger academic indicators, while low-tier universities may focus more on whether you meet the baseline requirements. So don't blindly copy what other students is doing. Build your strategy based on the schools that you are targeting. And the second major area is English testing. If you are from a country where English is not your native language, universities usually want proof that you can study English. The two most common tests are IELTS, TOEFL. These remain most widely recognized option, but now there is another test that many students know about, and that is Duolingo English test. The reason Duolingo becomes so popular is simple. It is much cheaper and it is easier to access, more flexible for many students than traditional testing. And Duolingo itself markets the test as more affordable online option. And many institutions now accept it, though not all do. IELTS is very costly and Duolingo is tentatively 3 times cheaper than what IELTS normally costs. Now let me clear up a very common misunderstanding. Many students think that if they score higher on IELTS or TOEFL, they will get more scholarship money, and this is usually not how it works. English tests are mainly there to show that you can survive academically in English speaking classroom. The university just wants to know that when you come here, you can understand lectures, read textbooks and write assignments and communicate properly. In many cases, once you cross that minimum required threshold, the test has done its job. So No, getting an 8.0 in IELTS does not automatically mean that you get more scholarship than someone who has 7.0 in IELTS. English proficiency and scholarship decisions are usually separate things unless school specifically says otherwise. So focus on meeting the comfortably exceeding requirement, but do not assume that English test scores alone will unlock the funding. The next question is, how do you actually apply? For many undergraduate students, the most common platform is Common Application, or you can say Common App. This platform allows you to apply to many colleges through one system, and as of current official guidance, first year applicants can apply up to 20 colleges in one application cycle through Common App, and that is extremely helpful because you do not want to manually enter all of your basic information again and again for every school. But here is important clarification: Common App is not the university itself. It is just a platform. Not every college accepts it. Some colleges have their own independent application portals. You have to apply directly, and there instead. Also, just because the platform exists does not mean every application is free. The platform account is free to create, but the colleges may still charge their own application fees unless you qualify for free waivers. Common App and many colleges do provide fee waiver pathways in certain cases, including financial need, but those policies vary. So when you apply, do not make the mistake of thinking, I opened up Common App, so now all colleges are free. No, what you should do is first build your college list, then check which ones accept Common App, which ones do not. For ones that accept Common App, you can reuse your main profile and save a huge amount of time. But even within Common App, many universities ask college specific questions. That means you still have to customize each application. Some will ask extra short responses, some will ask about intended measures, some will ask about activities, and some will ask why you want to attend to that university. So Common App saves time, but it does not automatically remove the need for school specific effort. Now let's just talk about one of the most important parts of application essay. Many universities, especially stronger ones, your essay is not just requirement. It is one of the few places where admission officers can actually hear your voice. Your grades, scores tell them how you performed. Your essay tells them who you are. A strong essay should not sound fake, over-polished, or artificially inspirational. It should feel real, should show something meaningful about personality, your struggle, your growth, your values, or the way you think. The best essays usually make the reader feel that there is a real human being behind the application, not a mechanical or machine-built people. And another important thing, not all colleges require the same amount of writing. Some colleges do not require essays at all. Some require main personal essay. Stronger and more selective colleges require supplemental essays too. There are extra questions that may ask why you want that school, what community you come from, what academic interest you want to pursue, or what perspective you will bring to the campus. So this is one of the areas where top tier and low tier universities differ a lot. Top tier universities usually care deeply about your writing, your story, your extracurricular activities, your leadership, your contribution community, and your broader profile. Many low tier universities are far more number based. They may only care whether you meet GPA and test requirements. That is why you must understand that not all schools evaluate students the same way. A profile that is impressive for Harvard is not judged in the same way by a less selective state university, and vice versa. Now, here comes one of the most practical questions that you should ask. Do I need a consultancy? My honest answer is, for US undergraduate applications, students do not need a consultancy. This is very different from some other countries where consultancies, pipelines are much more common. But in the US system, most universities do not require you to apply through consultancy. You can just do it yourself. Everything is online, the forms are online, the requirements are online, the essay prompts are online, the deadlines are online, the scholarship information is online. So if you are reasonably organized and you are willing to learn, you absolutely can self-apply. That said, I do understand why some students want to go to consultancies, because some students feel overwhelmed. Sometimes they are the first in their family to do this. Sometimes they do not have access to international payment methods. Sometimes they simply want someone to guide them step by step in those areas. If you think consultancy has some power to increase your admission chances, it does not. Your essays, your achievements, In fact, a bad consultancy can even make your application look weaker if they push generic essays or wrong school choices. So if you use one, use it only for assistance. Now let me talk about one of the biggest students' mistakes, and honestly one of the biggest mistakes that I made too. When you apply to the US, do not apply randomly. Divide your colleges into 3 buckets: dream schools, target schools, and safety schools. Dream schools are schools where admission is difficult for almost everyone. They may have low acceptance rate and may be famous, elite, or highly competitive. Target schools are schools where your profile is within a realistic range. Safety schools are schools where, based on your academic profile, you are likely to be admitted. The biggest mistakes many ambitious international students make is that they apply only to dream schools because they feel emotionally attached to prestige. That is exactly how students end up with a painful admission decision. I'm telling you this from my experience. I had a strong profile, I believed in myself, I aimed high. That part was good, but I did not build enough backup options. I leaned too heavily towards top schools and not enough towards mid-tier schools that may have been a better strategic fit for me. So learn from that, okay? Be ambitious, yes, but also be smart. A balanced college list is not a sign that you are less talented. It is a sign that you understand probability. It protects your future. And in many cases, strong mid-tier universities can still transform your life if you use them well. Now, let us talk about money, because for international students, this is one of the biggest concerns of all. Students ask, they ask most often, can international students get scholarship? The answer is yes, absolutely. But the scholarship structure varies a lot by school. Broadly speaking, there are 2 major types of scholarship you should understand: need-based and merit-based. Need-based aid depends on your family's financial situation. This is more common and often more generous at wealthy top universities. Merit-based aid depends on your academic record, test scores, leadership achievements, and overall competitiveness. Many universities use merit scholarship to attract strong students, specifically students who raise university's academic profile. Common App and college-specific resources also note that there are some schools either that waive fees or have no application fee at all, which can matter a lot when you are applying broadly. At the very top universities, especially wealthy private ones, it is possible for international students to receive extremely generous aid. Sometimes they also provide full funding depending upon your family income and institutional policy. At mid-tier schools, the more common pattern is partial tuition scholarship, merit discounts, or significant awards but incomplete. At low-tier school, you may often get some scholarship, but often you still need to cover a substantial amount yourself. So your job is not just to ask, does this school have a scholarship? But your job is to ask, what kind of scholarships does this school give to international students? How competitive it is, and what are the average award amounts, and what will I still have to pay after that? That's the real question. And here's the point. I really want young students to understand deeply, even if you do not get perfect scholarship in the beginning, that does not mean that door is closed. If you have enough funding to get here in the US and start, the US can create many opportunities after you arrive. Once you are on campus, you can prove yourself. You may find departmental scholarship, donor-funded awards, essay-based scholarship, competition prize money, research opportunities, campus jobs, all kinds of smaller and larger funding sources that were not obvious from outside. So this is not just theory. I personally experienced this. There were years when total value of my scholarship awards exceeded my tuition, and that extra money came back to my bank account. So I just want you to understand this clearly. Initial scholarship is important, but it is not always the full story of your financial future in the US. Now, do not misunderstand me. I'm not telling students to come irresponsibly. I'm not saying to take impossible financial risk without thinking. What I'm saying is, if you are serious, hardworking, strategic, the US has layers of opportunity that many students do not fully understand before arriving. If your package is not perfect from the day one, do not automatically assume that the journey is impossible. Just make sure you are thinking clearly, understand your real cost, and that you are not coming based on fantasy. Come based on plan. Another major question students ask is, if I have multiple universities option, how do I choose? Suppose one university is cheaper but located in a small city with fewer opportunities, and another one is slightly more expensive but is in a larger city with more internships, employers, and connections. My personal recommendation, in many cases it is better to lean towards better located university if the price difference is manageable. The reason is simple. Your tuition matters, but your ecosystem matters too. A city with stronger employers, stronger internships, more companies, and more international student familiarity can increase your chances of building work experiences much faster. In small cities, there may be fewer opportunities, fewer employers, and sometimes less understanding of how the international student hiring works. In larger cities, employers and institutions are big and they often are familiar with CPT, OPT, and international hiring and student internship. That can make your life a lot easier. But at the same time, I do not mean that you should blindly run towards biggest cities either, because places like New York, LA can be exciting and fun to live, but they are also brutally expensive. So is this city famous? Don't ask. Can I actually afford to live here? What is the rent? What is the transportation like? Can I find on-campus job? Is there a student community here? Will I be isolated? Those are the real questions that you should be asking before you come to the US. This is one of the most underused strategies. Before you finalize your school, search for universities, Nepali Student Association or International Student Association or Indian Student Association. Search for their Facebook groups, Instagram pages, LinkedIn students, or WhatsApp communities. You can message those people politely and ask them about cost of living, housing, part-time jobs, difficulty of classes, whether transportation are accessible or not, and these kind of stuff. Official university websites are also helpful, but current students tell you the real story. That information can save you from making a very expensive mistake. Now, let us talk about housing, because younger students do not think about this enough. Some universities require first-year students, specifically freshmen, to live on campus. Some do have exceptions and waivers. Sometimes, if you have relatives nearby, family, friends, and approved guardians arrangement, you may be able to live off campus instead. You must check the exact housing policy for each university because it varies. Some schools are strict, some are flexible, and this matters because living on campus is often significantly expensive than sharing an apartment or staying in a with trusted relatives. On-campus dorms can include meal plans, convenience, and community, but they can also add a big amount to your yearly cost. So when you compare universities, do not compare only the tuition. Compare tuition plus housing, meals, meal plans, insurance, and other fees. That's the real cost. And let me explain the admission to visa process in a more beginner-friendly way, because many students fresh out of high school find this entire process confusing. First, you apply to the university, then you wait for the decision. If you are admitted, the university may send you an offer of admission and scholarship details, and after that, you decide to move forward. The school will usually ask for financial documentation to show that you can cover the required cost of attendance. DHS guidance explains that schools collect proof of financial ability before issuing the form I-20. Once that's done, the SEVP certified school issues your form I-20, and then you pay the I-901 service fee, complete the DS-160 visa application, and schedule the interview with US Embassy or consulate. At the interview, you could bring the required documents, including your I-20, proof of service fee payment. That is how the standard official flow looks like. And let me correct one thing clearly here. Because students hear all kinds of rumor, people often talk about getting green slip, yellow slip, white slip, or different colors of the visa interview. Do not obsess over the color rumors. What matters is the actual outcome. Sometimes you are approved, sometimes you are refused, sometimes you are asked for more information or placed into administrative processing under some act. The State Department of US guidance makes it clear that when administrative processing or 221G refusal happens, the officer informs you at the end of the interview, but color coding is not a reliable rule to build to your understanding around. So focus on preparation, not on internet myths. Now, another practical question students always ask is, can I work while studying in the US? The answer is yes, but with rules. As F1 student, you can typically work on campus for up to 20 hours per week. That is the basic rule for all students. Off-campus work is different. It is simply after a year that you can actually work anywhere. The reality is structured. For many students, CPT becomes available after one full academic year at SEVP certified school, and it must be authorized by your school's designated school official. Also, CPT must be connected to your curriculum. In other words, it is not just a random employment permission. DHS guidance also notes that students can have more than one CPT authorization at any time, and one full year of full-time CPT can affect later OPT eligibility, so please understand the rule properly. Do not rely on casual hearsay from students who know half the law. The bigger message is that yes, there are legal ways to gain work experience while studying, specifically once you become more established in the system. On-campus jobs can help with living expenses, CPT can help you with internships related to your field, and these experiences matter a lot, not just money, but for your resume, confidence, and future employment. Still, be disciplined. Never violate your visa status casually. One careless choice can create immigration trouble. Then comes the question, what happens after the graduation? This is where OPT becomes very important. OPT, or optional practical training, allows eligible F1 students to work after graduation in a role related in their field. For most students, the common OPT period is 12 months, but if your degree qualifies as a STEM degree, then you get extra 24 months of extension on top of that, giving you about 3 years of work authorization. So yes, STEM degrees often create major advance in the US job pathway because they can give you more time to work legally after graduation. Now, I want to say something balanced here. From a practical perspective, yes, STEM is often the safer route if your priority is maximizing the post-graduation work opportunity in the US, but that does not mean everyone should blindly choose a subject they just hate because it is STEM. If you choose a field only out of fear and not out of interest and ability, you may suffer later. This is a personal decision. Ideally, you should choose something that is both meaningful to you and strategically useful. I have had 2 degrees in bachelor's level and none of them are in STEM because I just love this subject. So there's another question that many students fresh out of high school do not ask early enough. What kind of profile matters a lot for what kind of school? Let me explain this clearly. If you are applying to top tier universities, then your application is not just about grades. Those schools often care about your extracurricular activities, your leadership, your initiative, your service, and your competitions, your essays, your curiosity, your character, and overall story of your life. They want to know what kind of person you are and what kind of impact you may create on campus. So if you are applying to low tier universities, the process is often straightforward. Many of them care mainly about whether your GPA is high enough, or whether your test scores meet the range if required, and whether you meet their admission threshold. This is why students must stop using one application mindset for every school. Different tiers evaluate things differently. And here is one more thing that I want young students to hear. Do not wait for someone to rescue your future. This video can guide you. Seniors can guide you, YouTube can guide you, consultants can guide you, but at the end of the day, nobody cares more about your future than yourself. You still need to research every university yourself, you still need to check the deadlines yourself, you still need to confirm scholarship policies yourself, you need to understand the real cost yourself, you need to verify whether your school is SEVP certified school or not. DHS provides a school search for that exact reason. Do not build your life on assumptions, rumors, build it with careful research. So if I had to give you one final advice, it is to be ambitious, but do not blindly trust everyone. Apply widely, understand the difference between dream, target, and safety schools. Use Common App smartly, but do not forget that each university has its own rule. Do not assume consultancy is necessary. Understand that English tests are about proving readiness, not about buying scholarships. Also understand that scholarships exist in many forms. Understand that first offer is not always the full financial story of your US journey. Also understand that location matters. Understand that current students can tell you what official brochures never will, and understand the visa process, understand the rules and regulation of working here in the US, and be informed, patient, and persistent. If your dream is to study in the United States, do not be scared by the complexity. Break it down, learn one part at a time, build your documents, build your college list, build your story, build your courage, and if you do that properly, if you give yourself a real chance, then finally, I just want to say that I will make another video on graduate admissions because master's application and PhD applications are a little bit complex, and if you do have any questions more about how to apply to the US and stuff like that, please comment and I will make sure I find some time to reply, and suggest me if you want to learn about any topics. Please comment and I will try to ensure that I make video. I want to just try to make at least one video a week. So let's see how this journey goes. Thank you so much. If you love this video, please subscribe and share. Thank you so much.